Hello. I have not recorded a video in 3 months. My mental health has been terrible. I haven't really been reading the past 2 months, also for a lot of reasons. I'm disappointed in myself. So let's start off my next video back on the channel with books that disappointed me, because that's the theme of this video. I'm gonna start by talking about the ones that I don't have physically, because otherwise I'll forget to mention them. So I only have 7. Overall, for this past year, everything was pretty mid. I feel like I didn't actually read anything that I hate. I'm not going to be doing a worst books of the year because I honestly don't have anything that I hated, and I don't know if that's because I decided not to finish things or I stopped reading things I wasn't enjoying. I couldn't tell you what it is. I don't think I had anything below a 2-star this year. I might have not even had anything below a 3-star, to be honest. So that seems like it should be a good thing, but I honestly would rather feel things. I think a lot of us feel that way. But so I don't have any books to rant about really, but I will go over these and what didn't work for me with all of these, obviously, because there were things that disappointed me. Okay, so we're going to talk about The Ocean at the End of the Lane, which is such a praised book in general, and I don't know if I've ever seen a negative review for it, so I just don't understand Gaiman's writing. I don't know if it's something about, I don't know what it is about the way he writes, but it just does not click in my brain. I don't know what he means. And I find that interesting because I've seen people compare like Laini Taylor's writing to his writing, and I know V.E. Schwab has a lot of inspirations from Gaiman as well. So maybe I'm just not picking up the right books by Gaiman, but I've literally read Coraline, which is probably my favorite of his that I've read. And then I read The Graveyard Book. It was fine. And then I read Ocean at the End of the Lane, which a lot of people say is like their favorite work by him. And it just, like, I get what he was trying to do, but I just feel like he doesn't go deep enough. Like, I don't feel like he goes deep enough for what I like in my books, I guess. I just don't know how to explain it really fully well. I need more. I don't know. I mean, it's not because it was short. I don't know. But I'm really interested. I still want to read like American Gods and Good Omens. Like, those two are the ones that I'm like, I'm still willing to give him that shot. Even though I've read 3 books by him and been kind of like, they've only been good or okay. I mean, let me know what you think of Gaiman. I'm curious. Like, is it just a me thing? Because I really don't feel like I've ever seen a negative review for any of his books. Okay, next we're going to talk about, ooh, this one was so hyped last year. And that's Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And honestly, if I was to read this one now, I might relate to it a lot more. But at the same time, like, this whole entire book is kind of hinging on you being upset at the ending, which there is 2 different things I'm talking about. The ending, I don't want to spoil the ending, I don't want to spoil the book. I mean, the part of this book that has to do with friendship is probably my biggest issue to it, because I feel like there's so much miscommunication. There's so much not saying things to each other, which, ooh, the irony. I just didn't like the way I didn't like how it was written. I didn't like how things progressed in the book. I didn't find a lot. I gave it 3 stars. Like, I mean, I didn't hate the book, but I just feel like if they had just told each other what was going on in their heads, like, things could have been better. But I don't know. The irony of what I'm saying right now, if y'all only knew. At the time I read it, I didn't relate to it at all, because I was like, I would never be this person who doesn't see how they feel. And yet, let's move on. Okay, next is going to be A Court of Wings and Ruin. This one, I don't know what, I listened to like the full cast audiobook because I was like, all right, like I've heard so many people like kind of give this a meh thing, and I read Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury. I saw them on my shelf, like up there, and they were good. I liked them. I didn't think they were like as, I don't understand how that's the series getting all the hype. Like, why do people like that more? I've also just the beginning of this year already read the first book in Throne of Glass, and I'm already like way more into it. So I just don't understand why A Court of Thorns and Roses is the series that everyone's talking about when there's Throne of Glass. Like, I don't understand. I just don't get it. And I liked A Court of Mist and Fury. I thought it was I get why the girlies like it. I really do. I just don't. But A Court of Wings and Ruin, like, I don't know if I've seen any people that love Sarah J. Maas like act like that's like, I think, one of her worst books. So like, there was nothing about it to enjoy. I feel like it was, I mean, there was like a couple like mythology things and stuff to do with like the library, like that I found interesting, and like a couple of like the scenes with her and Rhysand, like they were like, I get it. but it was just way too long. Like, it was way too long for what it was trying to do, and it didn't really feel like an ending, and it just didn't, which it's not technically, so I mean, it doesn't have to, I guess, but it just didn't feel like a satisfying book. Like, it didn't feel like we concluded any arcs to stories, really. I mean, but I do feel like I kind of teared up at the end with the whole situation. It was very Disney fairy tale ending there with, like, well, I don't want to spoil it, but like just certain stakes not being high, I guess we'll put it that way. Okay, and then this is gonna be a really hot take, y'all. This is gonna be like, this one, like, y'all are gonna come for my throat with this one because she's a classic, and this is the first book I've read by her, and I love retellings of this book. I love retellings of this book. The idea of this, it's Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. I gave it 3 stars. I just found it, I don't know if it was the language, I don't know. I read the audiobook by Rosamund Pike, who I absolutely love. Rosamund Pike. I would easily give this another shot. I would read it again. Maybe it was me, not the book with this one. Like, this is one that, like, I don't trust myself. So, like, this one, I would give it, but I found it so boring. I really found it so boring. And I'm just like, is it because I'm used to, like, all these, like, fantasy books that have, like, all these extra elements to them? Maybe. But then again, I've also read, like, Jane Eyre, and that was one of my favorite books of last year. Like, that was one of my, the older I get, the more I relate to Jane Eyre, the more I think Jane Eyre is an absolute masterpiece. Like, I feel like I'm gonna reread that and give it 5, 6, 7, 8 stars every time I reread it. This book, I did not have that the first experience. However, the retellings of it, there's a movie that I watched, like, last year that was just inspired by it, or supposed to be retelling of it, and it's crazy how, like, the DNA of Pride and Prejudice can still exist in a movie about, like, 2 men, and, like, it's insane how the book DNA is like I love things that have to do with, like, 2 people who butt heads eventually, and then they slowly, like, come to realize maybe they do like each other. Maybe there's things that when they first met they were like, oh, they make assumptions about each other, and then things get better. Like, that is, like, that premise and that idea, that's my favorite thing on the planet. So I was so excited to read Pride and Prejudice because the origins of this trope, like, that's what I wanted to read. But I was kind of just disappointed in the overall, like, plot. And I've also watched the Keira Knightley movie. I have not watched the BBC adaptation, so maybe if I watch that, I'll kind of, like, get it more. And then, like, you know, and isn't that I think this is the book where they have the quote, like, where he says, like, you've bewitched me, body. And so maybe I didn't buy into their chemistry as much. I didn't really understand, like, where the hate was coming from, where the love was coming from. Like, I just kind of was, like, not fully seeing it. But, like, again, this trope is, like, my favorite trope ever when it comes to, like, romance. Like, this book didn't deliver what I wanted it to deliver, and that's what sucks. Like, that's just, but again, maybe I need to read it physically because of the language. Like, maybe I just wasn't fully grasping what's going on because I was reading it with my ears instead of my eyes. So, like, I would give it another shot. Okay, now I got 3 left. Also, none of these are really in order. Like, I didn't order these because, like I said, I had to talk about the ones I don't own physically first. But I'm gonna hit you with it. Jade City. I did not finish this book. I wanted to love this so bad, and I was enjoying it a little bit, and I've seen so many people say that, like, they kind of read this, they don't get it, and then they read the second book and it's even better, and they read the third book and the third book, like, absolutely gut punches them. So, like, again, maybe, but I'm just not really into, like, this type of story. Like, I prefer a more whimsical, magical, like, that kind of, like, dynamic when it comes to fantasy, and this didn't really deliver. This is very gritty, and people compare this to Peaky Blinders, which I haven't watched, but I'm so tired of the grimdark fantasy. Like, I'm not tired of it. I've never been into it. I've never liked it. I never watched Game of Thrones. Like, I hate, this is giving me that energy of, like, the TV screen is so incredibly dark and you can't see anything going on, and it's like, I love, like, a more, like, Once Upon a Time kind of fantasy, like that. Like, I love the energy. That's what I want. I don't like this type of fantasy. And I feel like I have continuously picked up books because these types of books for some reason get so hyped. I guess because maybe you don't like that other type of fantasy, so you pick up this because this has this, like, gritty, dark energy, and it feels different from, like, fantasy. So because it's different, that's what's getting it. I don't know. But again, like, I do still want to try this series because, again, I've seen it on so many people's, like, top 10 all-time favorite series lists. And, like, obviously they're talking about the whole series. They're not just talking about the first book. And I know people that have it on their top 10 favorite series list, and they were disappointed by the first book. But let me know if you guys think, from what I'm saying, like, this just isn't gonna be the one for me, because maybe it isn't. I don't know. That's why I love, like, YA. I'm still so into YA fantasy, even though I'm, like, a 30-year-old man. Like, I still love like just the whimsy, and there's no whimsy to be found here. Okay, next we have Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. Now let me tell you, the first like third of this book, I was like bowing down to Robin Hobb. Like there were things about the first two books that I found frustrating, and the first third of this book, all my frustration went away because I was like, oh, I see what she's doing. Oh, I see how you had to watch this character go through this path in order to like get here. And the first third of this book was absolutely incredible, especially with the cliffhanger ending of book 2. Like the first third of this is an absolute masterpiece. But then as you get through the second half of this book, it just completely falls off. It just completely loses any redeeming qualities, like at all. I still give it 3 stars because that first third was a 5 fucking, for me, absolute 5-star experience. Like I was like, this is making the first 2 books completely worth it, amazing. I have an entire spoiler-filled vlog of this trilogy, but I was so disappointed in this. Like I was so disappointed in this. But it's okay because I'm still gonna continue in the realm of the Elderlings. Like I've seen a lot of people say this is like one of the worst books in here, but then once you finish the series, like everything in here is worth it and it makes sense. And like maybe, but like this was just not, the second half of this was the most disappointing thing ever because the first third to half was incredible. So to give me one type of book at the beginning and give me the worst book at the end, I'm absolutely disappointed. So there we go. And then this, I mean, I guess this is my most disappointing book probably. I mean, I feel like these 3 fantasy books are all up there, but this one, because of how much I loved the first book and I really thought I was going to be a different person. Like I thought that all y'all out here talking about how the first book is amazing and it's the best thing I've ever read, and the second book, like it's the Wise Man's Fear. Okay, the writing is still incredible. I still love the writing, but what did we do here? What happened here? What was the point here? Did we learn anything new here? Sort of, but like not in a satisfying way, not in an amazing way, not in a way that makes me excited to continue the series. Like, I mean, I do still, whenever, and also like I know, we have no idea when the third book is coming out. We have no clue, like, is he doing, and I know there's been a lot of controversy with him and like that charity he was working, I know. But the writing is still so good, and I still really, 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 really want, there was a certain line in here about how it's like we get older and older, but like the music, we can still sing our voice no matter how old we get. Like, and I love the music appreciation. He's clearly got a huge appreciation for music, and I also have a huge appreciation for music and musicals and all. I love music is like, I love books that celebrate music. Like that's one of my favorite tropes ever also. Like I love this writing so much. Like I could read his writing forever. So I will whenever we get a next book in this series. Like, people complaining about how there's like this one scene that goes on for too long. I feel like because I went in with like expecting it to be like hundreds of pages long, I don't feel like it was. And I also feel like it's in line with the character that we are getting in this book, with his cockiness, his like telling you how good he is at everything. Of course he's gonna go on and on and on about how great he is at every single thing you can do in life. And maybe that's just the author like making up for his own like insecurities. I don't know. Like, because to me, I love reading a fantasy book where the character is like cocky and like who you wish yourself to be in a way. Like, obviously I don't want to be Kavoth, but like, like you want to be that person who doesn't have any insecurities. I think we all want that, right? Don't we all want to be someone who has no insecurities? Do we need to read 100 pages of how good you are at like your way with women or whatever? Like, no, but like, I don't feel like it was 100 pages because I listened to it on audio. So maybe I just like, I really remember thinking like, wow, that's already it. That's the end already. So for me, yeah. And I read this like so long ago and I could not even probably tell you anything about it. I just remember that one quote about music, and I love how he talks about music every time. And there's a quote from the first book about music that I just, like, I want a tattoo of that. Like, I love this writing, but where are we gonna go next? I have no idea what he's gonna do. I don't think he has any idea. Like, that's why it's taken him so long to, hopefully, people say he's a chronic editor, so like, but then there's rumors of like, maybe who knows? And I'm tired of speculating about it. I just know this was disappointing, okay? Like, you think you're about to sit down to this most incredible, delectable meal, like, and also what sucks is because The Name of the Wind was a book that I picked up because I remember thinking to myself, I said, I don't think I like high fantasy. I don't know if I like I prefer like the YA fantasy, the urban fantasy, the somewhat set in the real world fantasy. I can't get into high fantasy. And then I picked up The Name of the Wind, and it was the most incredible thing I've ever read. And I was like, oh, like I can so get into high fantasy. I can eat this shit up. But then we get this. So I'm disappointed. Yeah, so the next video is gonna be my most surprising, and then I'm gonna do my best books of the year, and I'm actually surprised at myself at how many I did enjoy. So I am kind of like trying to reinvigorate my love for reading, because it's the one thing right now that is bringing me joy, like I said. So I need to kind of lean into that a little bit. I will leave my Instagram, my Goodreads, and my Twitter all be in the description for you to check out if you would like. Otherwise, have a great day. Bye.